Well, welcome everybody to the Dallas Film Podcast. Another episode. We've made it to episode, what is this, Austin? 47, episode 47. So Ashton Campbell here with episode 47. Ashton, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tony. My name is Ashton Campbell. I am the co-director of the Oak Cliff Film Festival, and I'm also one of the partners of the Texas Theater.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So let's start off with OCFF, year number 13, lucky number 13.
Yeah, Festival 13. This is a big one for us. We were going into the fest this year and we're like, do we play up the 13th thing? Do we like the lucky 13? That was actually a theme idea we were rolling with for a little bit, but we ended up, every year we have a theme, and I think that's one of the unique things about our festivals. We really do choose something and then kind of let that drive our creative and drive our bumpers and commercials and logos and just imagery, just everything you see about the fest. And the theme this year is movies are all around us, which is very, organic and sometimes vague, I think. But the whole idea is that, movies are all around us. It's even hard to say, right?
Yeah.
Movies are all around us. And so you think, anybody can be, a movie can happen anywhere in your mind when you're watching. If you're a script writer, I imagine you're always kind of writing in your head as you're seeing things happen, or you're walking down the street and that guy's a protagonist, and that's you just kind of think like that. So our creative team is really going with that theme this year, and that mindset when they're doing all the bumpers that you're going to see here in about like 8 days, I guess.
Okay, nice.
And so you're seeing that idea, and every year we kind of change it up a little bit. Last year was soup.
Yeah,
that's it, just soup. And it was a little mysterious and provocative and kind of an enigma. And this year it's like clouds and fluffy stuff. And it's like movies are all around us and everything's happy and we're just having a good time.
I like movies are all, because I'm the same way. Like I'll be driving around or somewhere and I'll see something and be like, oh, that would be a good action scene to
totally
right there. That location, I could see a car chase, and then there's the guy jumps out of the car. You literally, in your mind, you start like seeing stuff.
I think totally. I think that if you're a cinephile and you've seen certain movies and scenes before, you start. I mean, maybe I'm the only one here besides you, I guess. I think about scenes from movies, and I think about people doing those things, and like, what if that happened? Like in that one movie, or something like that. And then you kind of roll with it. And so it's a fun, when they presented it to us, I was like, yeah, you know what? Movies are all around us. And then the tagline after that, it was movies are all around us and life is a film festival.
Well, that's fun.
So
that's good.
It's a great theme this year. I've gotten a lot of good compliments on our creative this year. Our creative team is super awesome. Between the designers, Tess and Nick and Benji and Sean, kind of overseeing the whole process. They're just a really solid team that ever since we got partnered with them a few years ago, I feel like our creative has definitely taken a nice step.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. No, it sounds very cool. And it's people always, it's you're the lead character in your own story kind of thing. So it totally ties in with movies are all around us.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is when I moved to Dallas. I went to school in North Texas. When I moved to Dallas and I had a job at a production company, my boss, executive producer, a guy named Tim Johnson, we would go to eat lunch in Dallas in some places, and some parts of Dallas are a little bit different than other parts. Some are a little bit, the mindsets are different. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. So we're in a certain area that's more affluent and just kind of a different vibe over there from Deep Elm where our office was. And I remember this woman in front of us was taking a long time to kind of park her car, and she didn't realize that she was causing a traffic jam on, I think, Preston. And Tim goes, there she is, just starring in her own little movie and not thinking about anybody around us. And so for the past 5 months, I've been thinking about Tim saying that. And that was our joke for a while. It's like, oh yeah, they don't care. They're just starring in their own little movie.
Yeah. Nothing else matters.
Nothing else. Just oblivious. Just everything's cool. I'm in my movie. I'm the main character. Everybody should do what I think.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it's great. Yeah.
Well, I think that is a problem with not just drivers in Dallas, which one of the first things that I realized when I got here and I was on like I-35 or whatever, I was like, what is happening here with driving? It was insane.
If you travel a lot, and I know that you do, and I was on I do a lot of documentary production work, and I was doing a television series for the Big Tent Network. For about 4 years, I was up in Big Tent country, your neck of the woods. And I was up there, and me and my DP at the time, Jason Sack, we were driving all around Big Tent country, and we just noticed that it was way less stressful driving up there, like in Indianapolis or Columbus or Ann Arbor, all these college towns, where it's not empty. It's not the out in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. This is like the busy part of Iowa or Indiana or whatever state we were in. And we just, it's a thing. It's an actual thing that sometimes the traffic and the amount of people and the driver mentality is just different. So it can be stressful. So I imagine, you're probably just now getting used to it.
Yeah. Well, and because the rest of the time when you're out of the car, people are so nice in Dallas. Like everybody's so nice.
That's
like what happens when you're in the car? Why?
I don't, because everybody wants to get to point A or point B and the other people are hindering them. I don't know.
They're all trying to get to the Oak Cliff Film Festival on time.
Yeah, on June 20th. Yeah, it's weird.
Right.
They're all heading there right now to get in line for June 20th. Yeah, opening night is next Thursday. Well, yeah, when it depends on when you're listening to this, but yeah, opening night June 20th. It's amazing how fast it catches up to you.
Yeah.
Every year, because I remember thinking a couple days ago, okay, I got about a month left, and here's what I got to get done before, and then I'm like, did I do any of that stuff?
Right.
Like, so yeah, every year it just creeps up on us. No matter how, no matter how much we're planning, it arrives.
No,
really
you
fast.
spend, I've run a festival.
You know this, yeah, exactly.
You spend 6 months planning, and you're not even really thinking about the festival itself. You're like, your head is down, and you're just grinding away, doing task after task after task to make the thing happen. And then you look up, and you're like, oh, this is next week. It's on us. We're like, it's happening.
Yeah. And I have this weird anxiety every year where I'm like, is anybody going to come this year?
Yes.
Man, is anybody, this movie's only got like 5 sales. Oh my gosh. And it's still like 10 days away or 8 days away. And then all of a sudden like 100 people are in there.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. I was worrying for nothing. But I think if you worry about your festival, then you really care about it. And that's a good quality to have. And again, this, when you're running a film festival, you do exactly what you just said. That's what I've been doing. Every day I've got a different task in front of me. And sometimes it takes 3 or 4 days to get that one task done because I'll get pulled away and then have to put out this other fire or help something else. And it never goes according to plan, but that's kind of part of it. If it was going really smooth right now and I had nothing to do, I would be very nervous that I forgot something.
Right, yeah.
So I like that.
There's one major thing that you forgot.
Yeah, I'm just not thinking about like, did I order all the box office equipment or something like that? It's so yeah, if you're worried about it and you got a lot going on with it, it's a lot. And I don't think people really understand how much it does to run a film festival. There's a lot of things that you don't think about, and you don't even think about them until you start even getting remotely close to the higher level of running it. If you're just lower and you're just there volunteering, you can see some things, but you don't think about the 5 or 6 months it took to plan that one moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's interesting because you have there's always a staff, there's people, and there's volunteers, but the core group that actually does it is, and I'm speaking from experience, and I know from you as well, is generally pretty small. And the things that you think of that the co-director, there's no way the co-director isn't doing that because somebody else is in charge of that. No, you're doing it because there's no one else to do it. I forgot to order the awards for Sunscreen this year and realized it like a week before. And it takes time to get them printed and done and everything.
100%.
And I had to be like on the phone with him and like, if we order these today, how quickly can we have them? I was like, literally use the exact same ones from last year, just change the dates. They're all named the same. Best do this, best that, best whatever.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And they're like, yeah, we can get them to you.
I missed the deadline. I'll be full disclosure. You cannot buy enamel pins this year at the Oak Cliff Film Festival because I just didn't remember the turnaround.
Right.
And then I reached out about it, and they said, yeah, that's about 3 to 4 weeks. I was like, oh man. I looked at my calendar. I was like, we're like 13 days away. Okay. So that's not happening. Sorry, everybody. But I got something else in line that didn't take as long to print. So there's that. But there's always something that you and if you know what you're doing, or you think you know what you're doing, I guess you can figure it out along the way to counter it, or not counter it, but I guess fix it. And then you realize, okay, because if it's really important and you need 3 or 4 months to do it, you've done it already.
Yeah.
And it's the smaller things you don't even think about, like enamel pins.
Right.
And we don't get them every year, but we have a lot of people that like them and they buy them every year, and they just like to get them. And filmmakers come in who we've had before, and they'll have the pin from like the previous year, and then they'll get a new one in their tote bag and everything. And so, if you're a VIP or a filmmaker, a jury, or press, and you get a tote bag along with your badge, it's a nice little, trinket to have, to remember it. But But yeah, they're not happening this year, so I think we're just going to print some buttons instead.
You'll be fine.
They're fine. Everything's fine.
Well, and it's interesting. So I know every year for myself, you're leading into it and you're like, okay, everything looks good. Okay, I think we're good. We should be good. And it starts happening. And then as it's happening, it's like film production. You're just problem solving along the way and fixing this and fixing that. And 99% of the time, everyone has a great experience. There's always something that goes wrong that, all right, this thing went wrong and shouldn't have went wrong or whatever. And then you're apologizing to somebody for something. Because it just is. You just are.
Yeah, you left the sponsor logo out or something.
Yeah.
Like, damn it, I did do
How
that.
did we leave that logo out?
Yeah. And they gave us all that money. Luckily, a couple things that happened last year was a really good year. We did not have really any hiccups. It went great. So knock on wood for this year. But I think I kept waiting, looking around. And like you said, anybody who doesn't know what a producer does during for a show or a commercial or a movie or anything, they're just problem solving. Like that's all they're doing. Once they've got everything started and they've booked everybody and everybody's hired and crewed up and everything, and then you're in go time and you're in production and you're done with pre. Then it's just problem solving. Because then you're sitting back and just making sure that it's happening while the creatives, the director and the DP and the actors are doing their thing, right? And so you're always kind of, I think if you're seasoned, you're just looking around and waiting for something to catch on fire, figuratively. And so last year I just kept thinking like, okay, and then all of a sudden it was Saturday night. I was thinking, whoa, we're good. We got tomorrow and wow, we're good. And then I got some good news about our ticket sales and how we were just about to break the record for ticket sales. And then the Sunday afternoon we hit it and it's like, okay, that's great. And so, I'm not going to be spoiled and think that this year's going to be perfect. No. We've had a couple hiccups along the way that are some things that are going to happen. And this, again, your experience.
Well, and there's always an attendee or a couple of attendees that for something just doesn't go right for them for one reason or other. They bought their ticket, but for some reason it's not in the system and then you can't find it. And then they're mad because I bought my ticket and you're like, well, we'll figure it out. We got you. Yeah. Or, we ran into issues this year where we were oversold on a few things because we have the passes. And in the past, it's like you get a pass, you just went into the theater because, we didn't have to worry about necessarily overselling. Now you're selling individual tickets and you've got passes and there's that balance and you're like, oh, crap. Now in the future, we need to, even if you have a pass, you have to register for a film because we're literally too crowded, which is a good problem to have. And then, so anything like that you've had or that you foresee, you're a little different because you've got a massive, 600 seat theater for some of your main shows and then the smaller one. Yeah.
One thing that is always on my radar now is, certain levels of sponsorship, and obviously, Dallas Film Commission is one of them. So you get a certain number of passes, you get a certain number of VIP badges. When they're in your name, they're probably going to be in Tony Armour's name, you know, or you and Austin will have like 2 each or however many of your packages, right? Based on what you've done and what level sponsor you are. So sometimes the transfer doesn't go well and then, or you get somebody from said company and they get 6 and they've all been picked up and taken or whatever, but somebody heard that they had a badge.
Yeah.
So they show up on Saturday totally pissed off.
Yeah.
Because you don't have their badge. And the funny thing is sometimes they'll act like they're a little bit bigger than they really are.
Right.
And then I'll text my contact, who's probably the owner or the marketing or somebody who has a lot of say, and they're like, no, they don't have a badge. We've all got the badge. So things like that. That's what do you guys use for your box office?
Eventbrite.
Eventbrite. Okay. Yeah. We use Eventive. We've really loved using Eventive the past few years.
Yeah.
We went from somebody else to Eventive. And I feel like since we switched over to that, we've had a pretty good transition. We didn't have a lot of really big box office issues last year outside of the past thing I was saying.
Yeah.
That's almost worse than, and if somebody doesn't have the email and the confirmation or little things like that. But again, you're trying to, you can't worry about them.
Well, the pass thing gets complicated because okay, sponsors get the passes, filmmakers get passes, people who buy passes get passes, and then trying to just coordinate, literally physically getting them to everybody, making sure that they're getting the right ones and get this, and then using that to get into the films and screenings. It's such a logistical thing that it's a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah, it is, because nowadays with so much technology and all these sites are they're so intuitive. They've got so much going on. You want the analytics. So you want to know, okay, Tony Armour's badge is through his sponsorship. So he didn't buy that badge. So I want to make sure that the guy behind him who did buy a badge, I want to make sure they're kind of separated in terms of who's scanning what.
Right.
But they have the same badge, things like that. So you're always trying to figure out, okay, we sold, 100 VIP badges this year and we gave out 300 because of sponsorship. So you're trying to figure out,
right.
Well, we issued 450. Well, what's that 450? Well, I don't know. 450. It's like, no, we didn't make that much money on badge sales or we'd be loaded.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
We would, our program, we would be flying every filmmaker in and begging them to come and instead of having like a specific budget, so I was talking to, Barack today about it, who runs the festival with me, Barack Epstein. And I was looking at last year's analytics and I was trying to make sure like, hey, is this right? And then I didn't factor in some fees that come along with buying something online. I was like, oh, that's why that number is a little bit off. Those are issued. Those are actually bought. We made a lot of money on badge sales last year. Great. And then, but these other 300, those were part of sponsorship. So making that separation, I told the staff this the other day, and I tell the volunteers this every year, and this again, once you programmed a festival and you've set it up and you got everything going, the two most important things that cannot fail during your festival are box office and volunteers.
Yeah.
If you don't have strong box office and volunteers, you're dead in the water. You can have the best films out there, but if your volunteers are terrible and your box office is just crumbling, people are just going to go home, and the filmmakers aren't going to want to come back, and they have to have a good experience. And box office is front of house, basically. It's when you walk in the door, you go to see them. So if they're not smiling and trying to be like, hey, welcome to the Oak Cliff Film Festival, take note, box office people.
It is. It's one of the harder things to make sure happens. And, you guys are super lucky in that you've got a theater, right? And so the running of the films makes it easy. We rent an AMC theaters and then have to bring in an outside tech team that's been the same tech team for multiple years and all that kind of stuff. But there's a process to it, and the amount of money that we spend, on that, it's like you want to make sure that you get that right. Like if you don't get that right, like you get to Saturday night and I was like, man, everything's gone so well. And then Sunday morning there was a server crash on one of the theaters at AMC, and I'm like, I spoke too soon. We lost a block because the server crashed.
Yeah, and you do you do hear a lot of horror stories from other festivals or just moments where like things are out of your control, like a power failure or this or that or just whatever. I mean, we just had a storm in Dallas, right, that knocked out a lot of people's power for 6. We were out. Our house was without power for 6 days.
Oh, that sucks.
Things can happen, and they're out of your control. It was cool that happened during festival planning season. That was a fun 6 days.
That's ideal.
Yeah, it was great. It was everything's fine. Everything's great. Come to the Oak Cliff Film Festival, but please, no. And you try to figure everything out that can happen, but then again, every year there's always that weird thing that you can't plan for.
Yeah,
and if it's a server or you hope you tech check every DCP, you hope you tech check every file. But, one year we had, we just noticed right before the movie started, this is years ago, we noticed that the volume on this mix for this film was just really high.
Yeah.
And we had to talk to the director to make sure, hey, is this right? And he was, it was actually, but it just seemed, it was good that we checked it earlier, but what if we didn't? And what if we got in there and then freaked out and then, weren't prepared for that or any little things like that along the way that, again, you're not thinking about. They just kind of happen.
Yeah. No, it's, and are you guys, do you require every filmmaker to send in a DCP?
No. So, one of our venues is not DCP.
Yeah. So the upstairs is not DCP.
The upstairs is.
It is.
Yeah. So the only venue that we're not doing DCPs for is the Kessler Theater.
Oh, okay.
So they're not DCPs. So it's just a quick time.
Right.
Yeah, everything else is DCP. Yeah.
Right. And are you converting them then, or?
Yeah, we will. We will convert to a DCP, but a lot of filmmakers nowadays it's more common, so they send us DCP links.
Yeah.
We've done DCPs for filmmakers who are trying to get into festivals. We do that as a service through through the Texas Theater, not through OCFF. But yeah, we'll create them if we need to. But a lot of times it's being done. Yeah. It's been done.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny. See, you're 13. Sunscreen's going to 20. When we first started our first festival in 2006, I was still getting VHS
I was going to say,
submissions. And even
Laserdisc.
I'm trying to remember how many years, like where the transition switched to all digital screeners, because we would have stacks of DVDs you'd give to the screener, and then they're handing it off to another screener to watch, and you've got hundreds of DVDs that have been mailed in, and this one got crushed in the mail because they didn't do it right, so now they have to mail us another one. It was such a crazy process, and like I'm thinking back, I'm like, how did we even do that? Like, were you still getting physical media when you started 13 years ago?
Yeah, we have in the past. I didn't come aboard until 2015.
Okay.
So 2015 was my first year. I was going to the fest and helping them out in certain areas, but actually working for the OCFF and being a part of the team and the admin side of things and planning ahead of time.
Right.
That's my first year for that. So yeah, but I do. I mean, we have received physical media. I'm trying to think of the last time we did. I think we got a Blu-ray one year, What's the weirdest physical media you've ever received since you have more years on us?
I mean, weird wise, just still VHS. People would send in
HD cam or something like that.
HD cam, Beta SP.
Oh, wow.
SP, like old broadcast, kind of stuff is like Beta SP. And fortunately, my co-founder back in the time, he worked for. It was PAX Television, then Ion. So they had everything. They had Beta and Beta SP and HD. They had all the decks. So he would just go to work and like transfer it into something that we could use.
Yeah, totally.
And, then it'd be fine. And so it was beautiful that he had that at the beginning. But VHS, HD cam, Beta SP, mini DV tapes.
I was going to say, God, mini DV, you got mini DV. That's so great.
Mini DV, High 8, like all of it. They all came at one point or another.
Yeah. So you flashback when you just said Beta SP, like when the job I got in Dallas after I graduated college was in 2003, and I started working on an Avid, and I was loading Digibeta tapes up and like and then I was transferring some Beta SP to Digibeta.
Yeah.
For our archives.
Some of our listeners have no idea what these words are that they're speaking.
They're like,
what is this Beta SP you speak of?
They're just making up words. These two older guys, they're just making up words. No, it's a real thing, kids. Yeah, mini DV. That I shot a lot of my first reel when I was trying to go into freelance and get more work. A lot of that was digitized from mini DV cam.
I had my first nice camera I bought was a Canon XL1.
XL1. Oh,
shot on the mini DV. That thing, it was amazing.
Well, because that shot on 24p, right? Did that shoot 24p? Yeah, that was the big deal, because I ended up buying a DVX100 Panasonic shortly after the XL1 rage. It was like, oh yeah, this is it shoots 24. So you're shooting video at 24 frames a second, so it's got a little bit of a better look to it.
Yeah, not much, but
you still got a video. You just got a tape in your hand, And then HD cam. Yeah, to my knowledge, I don't think we've ever received anything with the Beta SP like front end or a cam, or something like that. I think there's been some Blu-rays, but nowadays it's DCPs, hard drives. Studios will send us like encrypted crew drives or something like that. Yeah, and then but then you're playing the key game. Like, well, when is this active? Is this 24 hours before the film? Okay, so can we tech check it 3 days before? So can we get keys for that day too?
Right.
And then it becomes the encrypted game. Which we at the theater we do that all the time, because it's only active for the 2 weeks you're running the film. Which makes, again, this might be some more inside baseball for people who are like, what the hell are they talking about?
I think people like that though. I'm assuming that they do. The people who are just interested in the weird random stuff that we're going to talk about, the intricacies of running these things. Well, even I can't remember what years they were, but there was that transition between the sort of physical media into digital when, for the festival itself, we were screening off a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Where we would get all the files from people and then burn Blu-rays. And so we had stacks of Blu-rays for each theater where things were, and then we had to set up Blu-ray players for each theater into the AMC's projectors and stuff. It was like a bizarre. I like to even think back of like how we managed to do this. And you're just like cabling into AMC's projectors with Blu-ray players and everything else. It's
Speaking of like thinking about how time it takes to do something, the other day I was having a moment where I was transferring a bunch of footage from hard drive to hard drive. And I was kind of on the go and I needed to get out of there fast. And I realized like, okay, this, and it was only going to take 3 minutes
Yeah.
transfer like 200 gigs because it was, two SSD drives and, USB-C. So it was going to be fast, but I was mad about it. I was mad that I had to wait like an extra 2 minutes. And I started thinking to myself, this would have taken an hour and a half 3 years ago, And so, yeah, it's amazing what we can do now because we can problem solve better. And there was an issue with the DCP last year that one of our projectionists noticed about 5 days before the fest. And so we emailed the director, got a new link within 3 hours, downloaded it, put it in, within 4 or 5 hours, problem solved. And that would have taken, 3 or 4 days with shipping and everything like that, just a few years ago before, downloading and fiber internet and just speeds of everything just changed and is better now.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the festival itself.
Yeah, we talked about all the roots.
All of the background and the intricacies of making it run. So it starts on the 20th. Talk about just sort of what the schedule is, what it looks like for the dates of the festival. Overall dates, 20th to the 22nd.
23rd, yeah. It's Thursday through Sunday. We're still a 4-day fest. Opening night, I'm really excited about this one, being a fan of these musicians, but it's called Omar and Cedric, If This Ever Gets Weird. And it's a documentary on the founders of At the Drive-In, which is a post-hardcore band from El Paso that ended up, these two guys went in ahead and formed Mars Volta. Very, very much in our wheelhouse of the Texas theater. And, we get a lot of musicians, a lot of indie rock guys, and just fans of that style of music. So this was a no-brainer programming for us. We really we're hoping that Omar and Cedric would come and play a show with one of their many bands that they're in. But they couldn't, schedule-wise, it couldn't happen. The editor of the film, Gary Forrester, is coming in, which I'm really excited about because this film is actually not talking heads. This is these two guys, Omar and Cedric. This is home video footage. They basically had some sort of camera with them at all times.
Yeah.
35, 40 years ago.
Wow, that's cool.
So apparently there's hundreds of hours of footage that they went through, and that's how they're telling the story. Because I think the band started in 93 or 94, I think, At the Drive-In started in El Paso. So, very, very long ago, 40 years ago. And now we're going to tell the story, and it's a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's just a really cool way to see a documentary done. So, we couldn't get the director, scheduling issues as well, but we got the editor, who is kind of your main storyteller.
I was going to say, the editor is who you should be talking to, because if you've got stuff that was shot 30, 40 years ago and hundreds of hours of footage, it's the editor.
With no talking heads.
It's the editor who's making the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I'm a documentary guy, as you know, so I'm going to be geeking out during this Q&A because it's about a band. I've seen the band. I saw At the Drive-In multiple times when they were still together before they broke up. I've seen Mars Volta. I'm a big fan. I'm stoked that we got this movie for opening night. We've also had a history of music documentaries on opening night. We did Summer of Soul a few years ago in 2021. That was our first year back from the pandemic. We did Bad Reputation, the Joan Jett documentary, I think in 2018 or 17, one of those years. We have a documentary opening, especially an opening night documentary. An opening night, documentary film to kick us off. I think we've done that multiple years. We did it actually the last 3 years in a row now that I think about it. Summer of Soul. Then we did Butterfly in the Sky, the documentary about Reading Rainbow that's now on Netflix, I believe.
Cool.
And then last year we had one Going Varsity Mariachi. So this will be our 4th year in a row of the documentary. I'm a geek for documentaries. I love the storytelling. I love the fact that we always have a really strong documentary program, and we, so I think some festivals have like a documentary block, and that's kind of it. But we're almost split sometimes with narratives and documentaries, and I love that. So I'm really excited for that one. And then we're just gonna have a behind the screen show with 2 bands. One's called Perdidos, and they are a band that sounds very similar to At the Drive-In, kind of Latino post-hardcore band. And then Desera, which is actually from McAllen. But now I think they're up in Dallas, and they sound a lot like Mars Volta. So we're definitely trying to mold the 2 sounds and then have a behind the screen show. And for the people who don't know what that is, behind the screen is kind of exactly what it sounds like. You're going behind the screen of the Texas Theater, downstairs auditorium, and there's kind of like there's a stage, and it's like a club atmosphere there.
That's cool.
And we can get so I'm really excited to as soon as that Q&A ends and I wrap it up, because I'll talk, as you can tell. I got to be looking at the clock and get the flashlight going for somebody to tell me, hey, wrap this up, and go backstage, go behind the screen and listen to the bands play. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. And then Friday kicks off all the other venues. This year, we're going to be at the Kessler Theater. We're going to be at the Bishop Arts Theater Center. We're going to be at the Texas Theater, both upstairs and downstairs. And we're also going to be at a place called the Oak Cliff Assembly, which is on the other side of 35 by the zoo. It's a really great space. Old church that has been kind of renovated into a co-working space. And it has
you have screenings there this year?
Yeah, we have two different screenings there on Friday night. We have our student shorts block, and we have a late night shorts block. And late night shorts is always the fun stuff.
It's cool that you've expanded into these other venues, because obviously having the Texas, you could just do everything there, but you're growing to a certain point where you can do more films and screen multiple locations. How many films overall do you have at the festival this year?
We're pushing close to 30 features.
Nice.
I believe it's 20, I think it's 26. I probably should have done the research before I came, right? And then we have more shorts blocks than more shorts than we ever have.
That's awesome.
We're in, pushing, we added 2 extra blocks this year. We added an animated shorts block.
Yeah, nice.
And we added a narrative shorts part 2 block. So now we have 2 narrative shorts blocks, really because we had so much good stuff.
Yeah.
This was the second most submissions we've ever had for a festival.
Awesome.
And oddly enough, the winner was 2018.
Yeah.
Which you think almost, I feel like a lot of festivals have a lot more submissions now than they did 3 or 4 years prior. Last year we had a ton, but I went back and looked, and okay, there was as much as 2018, and we're just under 2018 this year. And just we had so many good animated shorts that we were thinking, well, wait a second, these usually would go in late night shorts,
right? If
they're fun and kind of zany and weird. But what if we had our own block, and then we could actually take some of this good stuff that was sitting there that was on the border.
Yeah.
Now we can get that in late night shorts and narrative, and then we had our own animated block. So I think we may have just added another block in perpetuity.
I love that. It's what we've grown at Sunscreen over the years, is just adding more shorts. And one of the things we realize, and you and I have talked about this, short filmmakers travel and go to where their festivals where the film's playing in different festivals. And so by having more shorts, you get more filmmakers attending the festival, which then translates into a bigger audience for everything else, because they're going to everything else that's happening there. And short films are just such a great way to bring out people in the community. Is like, I just want to go see a comedy short block or whatever it is. It's just such a cool thing. And shorts are so important for festivals. I'd love to see that you guys have expanded that part of what you're doing.
Yeah, shorts have always been a big part of our festival. We've got a documentary block. We've got obviously 2 narrative shorts blocks. We have a late night shorts block. We have Cinema 16, which is more experimental. And then Texas Student Shorts. And the great thing about our Texas Student Shorts block now is that we've been doing the student filmmaking workshop for the past couple of years. This is actually year 2 of teaching them how to make a film.
Right.
And we take high school kids in South Oak Cliff and kind of South Dallas at a wonderful partner that I definitely have to give a shout out to. Xavier and Taylor over at 4 Oak Cliff have just been so great with helping us get this thing going and giving us a space to do it. They have a beautiful gymnasium that Mark Cuban helped renovate years ago. They just do awesome work out in 4 Oak Cliff. So big shout out to them in South Oak Cliff. They're really doing a lot of good community stuff. And these filmmakers are all high school kids. That's the criteria.
Yeah.
You have to be a high school student and enrolled, and you got to show us where you're enrolled, and you can't be graduated. Like, you got to be in school.
Yeah.
And we're going to show you how to make a film. And if you can make a film, we hand you a camera in April. Shout out to Canon for giving us some cameras. I'm just plugging sponsors.
No, go for it.
But yeah.
Who's your headline sponsor?
This year, our headlining sponsors, the Dallas Film Commission's one of them. There you go. Check that out. There you go. And then, Crazy Water's back again. Tito's is a huge sponsor of ours. TRG handles just a ton of our creative and really helps us get it going. So those are our main ones this year. And the Dallas Office of Arts and Culture. The Arts Activate grant, we were awarded that this year. So again, they help us. So these are all things that without these sponsors, you don't.
You can't exist. Yeah,
you can exist maybe, but you're going to have a lot of angry staff members that you ask 6 months of work and you can't give them anything for it besides a couple tickets to movies later on, because they can't watch anything during the fest because they're working, right? So you got to have some kind of leverage. But these kids were told to okay, it's April now. We've had a couple classes. Now go make a film. And you've got 2 months to make a film. And if you can get us the film by the beginning of June, we're not going to program the movie. It's going to be screened. It's going to be screened in front of the Texas Student Shorts block, which is usually reserved for college students. It's usually grad students doing their thesis. They're experienced filmmakers. And now these high school kids get to go up there and put a film in the fest. And last year we had 2 films. This year we have 4.
Nice.
So definitely an uptick there. And
how many students are usually in like that filmmaking class group?
I think this year we topped out at 36. We had 36 kids came to our workshop.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like last year was about 28.
And it's free for them?
It's free. It's 100% free.
Nice.
Yeah, they show up in late February or early March when we usually have the first one. This year we had local filmmaker Merced Elizondo come and like do a Q&A. In 2023, David Lowery came out and he just kind of hung out and talked to the kids, and that was a big deal because he was in town, and
the kids had no idea like what they were really getting for that. Because
well, that's funny though you said that though, because I feel like a lot of them knew, and one of them said, "I came to see David Lowery."
Oh, really?
And I was like, "That's great." And she's like, "Yeah, I love the Green Knight." I was like, "Man, you saw the Green Knight, and how old are you?" She's like, "I'm 17." I was like, "Okay, well that's wow. That's I mean, that's not a movie that I think that is getting to that audience that much." And so they knew what A24 was. I think kids are just, I mean, the internet's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
and it can be the worst thing in the world, but it's also like,
I think if you are think back when we were in high school or whatever, like we're film nerds, like, so they still exist.
Yeah, I would have been, yeah, exactly. Yeah. The cinephile kids that are just, this is their life. That's what I was. I was, I was all about film and trying to find a way to make sports and film. And that was kind of my goal. And I think that the kids, it's just really great to see their faces when they're up there doing a Q&A. And last year it was super rewarding to watch them do the Q&A with our moderator that night. And you could tell that they were shy, they were nervous, they were up there with filmmakers, but they also were proud of their film and people were clapping. Yeah. And one of the films this year in our block is from our workshop was shockingly great.
Really?
In a sense of like, not to take anything away from them, but it was told in a very unique way. And I was like, okay, they've got some talent. And then another one was a found footage one. Yeah. And it was just fun. And the other one was kind of driven mostly by music. So we were really impressed. Like we all kind of looked at each other and we're like, the cinematography is really good in this one. We just, because we didn't teach them everything. Yeah. They had to know something. Yeah. We don't have the time to teach them everything.
And whatever they're a fan of, they're mimicking as well. Like at that age, totally. At that age, you're mimicking something that you've seen or that you know or whatever else. Mm-hmm. I made on Super 8 film a basically Ohio drug dealing version of Miami Vice when I was 15. So,
everybody's wearing big jackets.
100%. They've got the jackets and the hats. And,
they're not hanging out at the beach like in my and so with the festival this year. One of the unique things I think with this year's fest is every year we've got this organic thing that happens. 2 years ago, we just had a ton of good documentaries. So I kept joking around that we were the Oak Cliff Documentary Film Festival. Right. Joking around. Last year, our programming was real heavy in just very unique films that were just kind of very different and told, like Problemista was one of those films. We had a couple documentaries like Don't Fall in Love with Yourself. We had Molly and Max and the Future was just these really unique films. And this year it's an alumni thing. We've got a lot of filmmakers that have made a film and they're back. So we've got, I think 4 or 5 that are coming back to the Oak Cliff Film Festival with a new film. Yeah. And so that's really Zach Clark's coming with a movie called The Becomers. Joel Petroikis is coming with a film called Vulcan as a Door that just premiered at Tribeca. And Joel, I think I got to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure he has the record now. This is his 4th or 5th project we've shown at the Oak Cliff Film Festival.
He clearly likes coming to Oak Cliff.
I think this is his 3rd or maybe his 4th feature and he did a short a couple years ago. So, or last year actually. So, real excited for that. And then our programming is just very, real interesting this year. We've got some really different films. There's a movie called Fantasy A Gets a Mattress and it's about Fantasy A getting a mattress. And Fantasy A is an autistic rapper from Seattle. And the only reason I throw out the autistic thing is because that's actually part of the movie. This is basically a biopic played by Fantasy A. So his name's Alexander Hubbard. And that's Fantasy. I hope I didn't give any kind of weird, hope he wasn't going. Yeah. But I'll talk to him when he comes. But it's a movie about, it's like a love letter to Seattle and parts of Seattle that aren't there anymore that have either gotten torn down post-pandemic. And so it's this really unique look in like parts of Seattle you didn't know about. And then you've got this rapper who lives in like a home and is just dealing with a bad landlord and all this stuff, and or the guy who runs like the halfway home or something like that, and he's there hanging out, and he's just trying to get a mattress for a better night's sleep because that's gonna get him to the top as a rapper. He just wants a good night's sleep. So the whole film is just really zany, fun. I mean, just real off the wall, hilarious ADR moments, and just really, really unique. And when the programming crew and we all, start watching films and we start, submissions, and we come across one, and I brought it up, and then Melanie, one of our programmers, was like, I love this Fantasy A movie. I was like, okay, I saw a little bit of it, but I haven't watched it yet. And I watched it and fell in love with it. It's one of my favorite films we have. It's
awesome.
It's so unique and different. And then you got something like I just said about Vulcan and Zadora. They're two totally different movies, but real excited for both the filmmakers and the stars of the film, both to come down. Joel's coming down, the DP, Adam Minnick's been with us for years for Vulcan. And then Joshua Burge, who's an actor in a lot of Joel's films. So they're like a family kind of affair, and they're coming back. We got Fantasy A gets a mattress, and we've got in the world of odd titles for films, we've got a movie called Swamp Dog Gets His Pool Painted. Swamp Dog is an 81-year-old kind of cult musician, underground, kind of like soul country, like rock. I've seen, if you go to his Wikipedia page, I think there's about 8 different genres that he could fall into. He's just been around forever. And there's a movie about him hanging out at his house while he's getting his pool painted. And Moog Star, who's one of his band members, and Guitar Shorty are there. And they're all hanging out, and musicians and people just stop by as he's getting his pool painted. So like there's a lot of really great cameos.
Right.
And he's going to do a behind the screen show on Saturday night. So again, we always try to make it different, and we got to film like Swamp Dog. So like, okay, we got to get Swamp Dog. Like that's our goal then, is to make sure we get Swamp Dog and it can come and back up the film with an event along with it. Sure. And so, those are just a couple things I'm excited about. But to your point earlier, we love being able to branch out into other venues and theaters. And that's always kind of been the idea. I mean, one of our mission statements for the Oak Cliff Film Society, which is the nonprofit that kind of runs the festival, is that we're trying to celebrate brave and independent filmmaking in the Oak Cliff neighborhood while also using historic venues and theaters. Yeah. So whether it's the Kessler or Bishop Arts Theater Center, or we used to do outdoor screenings at Wild Detectives. We've done that before. That's like an institution in Dallas or in Oak Cliff. We've done we did an outdoor screening one year in Bishop Arts. So we closed the street down and did Flight of the Navigator, and David Lowery, oddly enough, did the moderation for it and like introed it. And that was a free movie for everybody. We did an outdoor screening behind Eno's of Iron Giant years ago. It's just, we always try to make it more about, one venue, and just, it's a neighborhood film festival, and that's the whole goal.
Yeah. And the whole thing with the festival, like if you were just screening films and then that was it and was done and go home, that's not really a festival, right? Then you're just doing some screenings. Yeah. But to have that festival environment, to be an atmosphere, and you've got events and you've got parties and you've got the musical performances and you've got the workshops and the student stuff, that's what makes like a festival, a film festival, a festival.
Yeah. And, on the workshop front, we piggybacking on the fact that what I just said about taking a movie and running with it with something else. Last year we had 2 skateboarding documentaries in our shorts block. So we decided to do, hey, let's do a skateboarding workshop. Yeah. Let's do a free one. We go out to Tyler Station. I get some people to help me run it. Cy, who over at Camp Lucky, had a film. This was kind of his idea too. He had a film that he wanted to talk about. It's a skateboarding doc. So he's like, can we do a skateboarding workshop? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we had 50 free skateboards for the first 50 kids that came out there. It was packed. We had tons of kids. We ran out of skateboards. This year we have a movie called Ultimate Citizens. And Ultimate Citizens is about a school counselor up in Seattle, another Seattle film, oddly enough. And his name is Dr. Jamshid. And Dr. Jamshid is a counselor that also teaches inner city kids ultimate frisbee. And he's an Iranian immigrant, so he's over here from Iran, and he teaches them ultimate frisbee, and then they get good, and he takes them to a competition, and I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but it goes well. Like they're competitive.
That's cool.
And it's fantastic. And we were just thinking, well, hey, what if we can get Jamshid to come down and go to a park and do an ultimate frisbee workshop?
Right.
So now we've got an ultimate frisbee workshop on Saturday, June 22nd. 2:00 at Kidd Springs Park, and it's 100% free.
You guys are like the punk rock film festival. Like,
that's funny that you say that, because that is what has been said a lot of times. There is a DIY kind of punk rock aspect to it where we just kind of do our thing. Yeah. And I think that's why I like it. And that's why I have always been, the guys that started this thing in 2011, they started a fantastic model. And Jason Reimer and Barack Epstein, they just had this really cool idea that I was lucky to be a part of, and then I kind of just started helping out more and more, and you know how that goes. Then you get asked to do
Next
more.
thing you know,
you're helping run the thing.
there.
But it's a privilege, and it really is an honor to be asked to take on more years ago when they said, hey, you do this now, do this and do more. Yeah.
Well, and so obviously you're part of the Texas Theater as well. And so, there's been some stuff in the media lately, theaters around the country, theaters in Dallas, literally shutting their doors because box office numbers are down 24% from last year. And it's all okay because of the strikes. There's not as much product that's out there. Nobody's going to seeing what's out there. I'll look at, okay, what's playing this weekend? And I'll be like, man, I used to go to the movies every week. There's literally nothing I want to see. I'll be like, I want to go to the movies. Give me something I want to see. And there's nothing there. But you guys are doing great at the Texas. Talk a little bit about how things are going at the Texas Theater.
It's been great so far. We've had a really good year in 2020, 2024. 2023 was our best year. And we are on track to do that right now again. And so we figured out years ago that, and really, I think this was the idea from when, and I got involved with the theater around the same time as the festival. Yeah. So like that 2015 era. And really their vision when they opened it was to not just be a movie theater. And I think that's where we strive. We are not just a movie theater. I mean, we have concerts, we have podcasts, we have, comedy shows, we have, performances, ballet, band, behind the screen, on the stage. Sparks came last year. It was a huge show. We have a great amount of comedians that roll through there.
Yeah.
But the thing that we're doing right now, podcast, that's a big thing now, and a lot of these big ones will go on tour. So when are we going to go on tour, Tony? Just you and me talk.
Let's do it. Take it on the road. Yeah. I'm ready.
We've had huge podcasts come through, and it's great. And working with promoters like Live Nation and AEG and At the Helm and Outback and these local and national entities that come to our theater, and that was the goal. We wanted to become a multi-use venue.
Right.
So not just be. I mean, there's only so much you can do when you screen a movie.
Yeah.
You know, and so, we always try to make an event out of it. And I mean, if you just listen to the things I said a few minutes ago about making events out of the Oak Cliff Film Festival, I mean, I think that's, well, one, I think it's more fun.
Yeah.
We just played Wildcat. We sold out both shows of Ethan Hawke because Ethan Hawke came. Would we sold out both shows of Wildcat? Probably not. But we got Ethan Hawke to come. He's on tour right now, promoting the film. And it was fantastic. And it's because we were able to make something out of it.
Right.
And that's kind of the goal there. So we've really hit our stride. I think we've got a fantastic staff. We've got a great amount of fans and just regulars, people that just come see anything.
You've built an audience, who are loyal Texas Theater attendees. They know what you do. They like what you do. So even if they're not familiar with something, they're going to show up because there are other things that you've done that they like. And so that's, who comes. Yeah,
that's a great point. They might not know the film, but they're thinking, well, they put it in this series and I love these films and I love what they do. So I'm going to go see that. And that's also why the film festival works.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that now I think that even if they didn't know the films that are heard of the films that we program, they would still just trust that they trust us and they like our programming. So this seems cool, and they wouldn't program if it sucked. So I'm going to go see it, know. And I think that kind of works with the theater mindset as well. If you're a fan of any kind of event space, and you're seeing what they're programming and you like what they do, then you're gonna give them a little bit of leeway in terms of things you don't know about.
It's kind of like A24 has built a brand as a studio, right? Like if it's an A24 film, people go to see the film because it's an A24 film. Which what a brilliant thing that they've been able to craft and build with their, with who they are, so that's the thing, right? Like if you're flying on a plane now and you're scrolling through your movie options, there's literally, it's like on Delta or United or wherever, it says A24, and people know just by looking at that, okay, I know that maybe don't know what these films are, but there's a type of film that this is that I'm interested in. And so you've essentially done that with the Texas Theater as well. This is the brand and who we are. People are going to show up because of that. Yeah,
the brand, you nailed it. The brand is what we've been striving to get and have an identity and who we are and what we represent and what we do. And with that, there is that what we just said about, like, well, what are we going to do tonight? Well, let's see what's happening at the Texas Theater.
Right.
Because I like what they do.
Yeah.
And it could be random movie. And then they're thinking, well, okay, that seems cool. And they wouldn't show garbage. It's like, well, what you brought up A24, and like what A24 and what Neon has done is they created this thing where every time they put a movie out, you're just thinking, okay, it's probably going to be really good. Because I just trust everything that A24 and Neon and some of the other, independent studios that have really made a name for themselves, what they did. I mean, this is like years ago when other studios were out there and you were just thinking, okay, well, these guys made this movie.
Yeah.
And I like that, when all the crime movies were happening.
Right.
Okay, I like that. And you build off that. And I think that we've kind of hit our stride with what we program, knowing what works.
Yeah.
That's another key too, is we have conversations a lot and not everything works.
Yeah.
The first run movies are hard to get people to come to sometimes these days, because there's other options, or they're only going to be in theaters for like 2 weeks, and then they're going to be in going to Netflix after that.
Yeah,
that happens.
You've got to sprinkle it in because it's something cool that So you're probably, I'm going to guess, I haven't looked at the schedule, but I'm going to guess that maybe you didn't play The Fall Guy, but you did do Dune 2.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we looked at the crowd and thought, okay, well, who's going to come? And we just wrapped up Furiosa,
right?
And we would always play the next Mad Max film.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, in fact, Fury Road has oddly become like repertory already for us.
Yeah,
and
it's almost 10 years old. It's hard to believe it took them this long to make another one.
And it's crazy that. I swear that movie just came out, Fury Road, but, and we've shown the Chrome edition and we've shown the regular, and it's becoming a thing where we'll probably show Fury Road once a year now because it just works and everybody wants to see it again. And seeing a movie like that on the big screen in a big theater, that's how you want to see that.
Yeah.
Blade Runner and movies like that, 2001, these epic films, these big movies that aren't meant to be watched in your home.
Yeah. So what about, later this year, the new Crow movie comes out, and this is the 30th anniversary for the original Crow with Brandon Lee. Are you guys doing a Crow kind of thing at all?
We just showed the Crow,
the original,
the 30th anniversary.
Yeah, nice.
Of that. I don't know when does the new one come out.
It's sometime in August, I think.
Is it August? It should be around Halloween.
Yeah.
That would.
You would think, but I think it's late August.
No, I don't know if we're going to program that one. First runs are interesting because we're trying to figure out which ones. But that would be one that would make sense, right?
Yeah.
You would think it would make sense. So we have
like
to
if I think Texas Theater, I'm like Crow fits Texas Theater, right?
Yeah, it is. It's that whole there's that dark, mysterious kind of vibe to it, and it's a theater movie. It's cult classics.
Yeah,
and I mean The Crow is definitely a cult classic. I mean, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2. Bruce Campbell. We had Bruce Campbell come to the theater last year, and it was like, man, we've showed your movies a lot, and you're finally here, And we showed Bubba Hotep again up to that, and so you figure out what works, and then you roll with it. But the beauty for us is that we realized years ago that it can't just be movies.
No,
it's got to be something more than that.
Yeah.
And if you can double up on it and play the movie Blade Runner or Alien, something like that, before like a metal show behind the screen,
right?
Or a punk rock thing, and really like sci-fi and metal kind of go hand in hand a lot, or synth or something like new wave or like dark wave or goth or something like that. Yeah, you can cross program, and if a band's on tour and they come in, we might even ask them, hey,
what's your favorite?
Would you want to see? Would you want to do a screening before the movie? Oh yeah, of course I would. And it's almost like a little added bonus you can throw to them too.
Oh, I forgot. I mean, you guys just had Metallica.
Yeah. we had
Metallica, right? And
we had there was a book for Ross Halfland, the photographer of theirs for years.
Yeah.
They came to our theater. Lars Ulrich stopped by our theater back in 2016. Just came by.
Really?
Literally unannounced, stopped by, wanted to check out the theater. Loved the history, just wanted to see it. Conan O'Brien walked in the door out of nowhere years ago. Like, it happens.
Right.
And that's great. When that happens. Ethan Hawke, we were talking a lot in the green room back in early June about, and he was asking about Harvey Oswald and the history, and he was just gushing about the place. And we've also got that going for us too.
Sure.
we have never shied away from what that place represents, the history of it, and what it is for, Dallas, the city of Dallas. So every year on 11/22, we show Cry of Battle, we show War is Hell, and then we show JFK that evening. And we know that people want to come out and see the place, on November 22nd, because, it's a day that is, important in our history, and we're not going to shy away from that.
No, yeah, why would you? You embrace it,
Yeah, and once a day, it's, what seat did he sit in?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not the original seat, but it's this is the seat, this is the spot.
What is it again? It's like the
row 3. He was captured in row 3, seat 2.
Row 3, seat 2.
But he was in
from the back.
Yeah. He was in row 3, seat 5. I believe that was his first place. He was kind of moving.
Yeah.
I guess he was
like that was if I move over 3 seats, they'll never recognize me.
So row 3, seat 5 was what I always used to say, but he was actually busted in row 3, seat 2.
Yeah.
So, because, Johnny Brewer saw him and then made the phone call, and then he went to the theater and hid. I'm doing quotations right now. Yeah. He was hiding. So, yeah, we get a lot of conspiracy theorists and people that come in and ask questions and write books. And, again, there's a whole contingency of those people and that want to just know about, the history of that. But it's something that we definitely have always taken the history of that place. 1931 was when it was built. This place by Howard Hughes, of all people.
Yeah.
There's history all over that building, and we're just trying to preserve it and really celebrate, cinema. Because we're doing a Roger Corman series right now because the late Roger Corman now, and we're honoring those who really helped pave the way for independent cinema. And we wouldn't even have a film fest right now if it wasn't for independent filmmakers like Roger Corman. That wouldn't be a thing. So it's something that we definitely really try to honor in a way, and make sure that people know when they're there what we represent and what our brand is, and what we're trying to accomplish here. And then we're all there for one reason, really.
Yeah.
We're all there for the love of cinema. It all starts with cinema. Whether you're there for a concert or whatever, you might go back because you had a great time there. And we're getting a lot of first timers with all these random shows, these comedy shows and podcasts. So then we see them come back. And I was talking to a guy that came for a comedy show. He came to see a comedian called Dusty Slay. And he came back and he just was having a drink at the bar. And he's like, hey, you served me a drink last time I was here. And I was like, yeah, hey man, what's up? What's going on? I think I recognize you. And he's like, yeah, I just came back. I just wanted to kind of come back and see. I've lived in Dallas for years, and first time I came here was for the Dusty Slay show, but I thought this was a really cool place. I just wanted to see what else you got going on. I was like, well, that's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So
So the more variety that you do of programming there actually builds your consistent audience for just what you would call, the regular programming or whatever, which is great.
Exactly. And then that's the goal is to kind of get people to come back and see a show they didn't even, I would love it if somebody came back and watched like a Tarkovsky film because they had no idea who that person was or what that film, but they just saw the poster in the lobby and thought, well, I saw this repertory old cool indie cinema. What's this one? And then they came back for that. That would be the goal.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, give us one final pitch on Oak Cliff Film Festival, dates, times, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, Oak Cliff Film Festival starts June 20th through the 23rd. Thursday night is opening night. That's the Omar and Cedric documentary from Mars Volta and At the Drive-In. And then closing night, I didn't talk about that one. It's Between the Temples. That's a Sony Pictures Classics film with Jason Schwartzman, Carol Kane, and Robert Smigel, and it's got a Harold and Maude vibe to it.
Yeah.
Really great film, directed by Nathan Silver, whose movies we've shown in the past as well. And yeah, we've got a bunch of great stuff. Like I was saying, the Ultimate Citizens doc is a real, we've got the unique stuff that sometimes, like Vulcan is a Door, is a graphic film that I was talking about earlier. But then you got a palate cleanser on Saturday afternoon with Ultimate Citizens. It just kind of makes you feel warm and fuzzy about that there's good people in the world and trying to balance all that. But there's a movie called Good One that's fantastic that we're trying to really promote, and that we might have some filmmaker representation for that. I was talking about The Becomers. There's a movie called Doppelgangers. We've just got a lot of interesting filmmakers coming to the fest this year. I think this is a really good year for filmmaker attendance on the ones that are coming. And so I think the Q&As are going to be really special. So if you're around and you really like, again, making it an event, making it more than just a film, I think we've got some really great Q&As in store for everybody this year. And then, we've got Swamp Dogg playing Behind the Screen show on Saturday night. And also Haxan, we're showing the movie, the 1922 occult silent film Haxan, with a live score by Austin musician David Donato. And the beauty of that one too is that he's actually bringing a narrator up with him this time.
Oh,
so
cool.
he usually just scores. I think you know this. We've done some scores, like live score. We always that's been a thing too we're doing. black and white film. We did Lost World last year, not the Jurassic Park sequel to Lost World, like 25. And this year, but we've never done a narrator as well.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So I'm really interested to see, like, he's going to be playing guitar and doing fun sounds for this really boundary pushing occult film from 1922 that was banned for a while.
Oh, wow.
Denmark filmmaker. And then the narrator as well will kind of add to the ambiance and the whole experience. So yeah. And then, the workshops are happening Saturday morning. Dallas Film Commission is actually sponsoring one of those workshops, and you talked about short films earlier, and that one's actually called Starting with the Short, which is about making a short film as a proof of concept. And you mentioned earlier, which you nailed it, like short films are important. Sometimes they're the precursor to a feature film.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, that's on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. at the Oak Cliff Cultural Center, and those are free to the public. We're capped at 50 people. So sign up quickly because the signups are starting to fill up already.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here on the Dallas Film Podcast. Looking forward to Oak Cliff Film Festival coming up next week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, or whenever people are listening.
Whenever people are listening to this, it's going to be
Austin.
June
When are
20th.
people going to listen to it? Okay, so this is going to come out Tuesday. So it'll be, if you're listening to it Tuesday, that means literally a couple days from now. This Thursday is the launch of Oak Cliff Film Festival.
Oak Cliff Film Festival, 13th edition.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right.